team decorated.
Oh, okay.
Just
We would invite all who would care to stand and join us in a recitation of the Lord's Prayer, followed by a moment of silence. Our Father,
who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
it is now 7 o'clock. Shelby City Council meeting is called to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Be seated, please. Roll call, please, Mr. Crum.
Mr. Robb. Here. Mr. Roberts. Here. Mr. Gates. Here. Mr. Martin. Mr. McLaughlin.
Here.
I'll now entertain the motion to excuse Councilman Martin.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion by Mr. McLaughlin and a second by Mr. Roberts to excuse Councilman Martin this evening. Any discussion? Mr. Gates.
I inquired by email the reason for Mr. Martin's absence. He didn't tell us last meeting would be, he was on vacation.
Very good, thank you. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Yay.
Mr. Robb.
Here.
Mr. Roberts. Mr. Gates.
Nay.
The motion to excuse passes. I'll now entertain a motion to dispense with the reading of the journal from May 17, 2021.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Roberts and a second by Mr. Gates to dispense with the reading of the journal from May 17, 2021. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Yay.
Mr. Robb.
Yay.
Mr. Roberts.
Yay.
Mr. Gates.
Yay.
That motion passes. Now comes the time for public comment. Anyone has a public comment, they come to the podium and state their name and address and make a public comment, or reserve time for comment later on in the agenda. Do the same at this time. No public comment. Move forward then to reports from standing.
Excuse me, Mayor. I ask unanimous consent that council proceed now to consider resolution number 32-2021. Second.
Been asked by unanimous consent that we move forward in our agenda to resolution number 3221. Are there any objections to doing that? Hearing none, we will move forward then to resolution number 32, 2021. Mr. Crum.
Resolution number 32, 2021, approving the plans and authorizing the mayor as Director of Public Service to advertise for bids and enter into a contract for the City of Shelby, RIC SR 39-3.35 Shelby Streetscape Project, and declaring an emergency.
I move the resolution be taken up and passed. Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Gates and a second by Mr. Roberts for the passage of resolution number 32, 2021. Discussion. Mr. Gates.
Thank you, Mayor. So this has been long awaiting. A lot of work has went into this. I emailed out the plans and specs. Well, I think going ahead. I hope you guys have time to review those. But I do have Jason Burkholder here from the Cable Party, who is the design engineer on the project. If there are any questions or comments or so forth.
Mr. Gates.
Mayor, a question and a spelling error on the front page. Under city officials on the right-hand side, Law Director Eister's first name is misspelled. It's Gordon. And down at the bottom in the center, where it talks about standard construction drawings, there's a reference to City of Columbus specifications. I wonder about that.
So that reference is for the brick pavers we're doing and the base. It's been used in Columbus a lot. They have an entire spec book written. It's just easier essentially to reference that spec book for this project. They've had a lot of success with it down there. Our landscape architect at Edge Landscape Architects have used that extensively and are comfortable with that. So it's just a reference to that standard.
Yes, Mr. Gates.
Just a few things on the specs themselves. Page 1, there's a reference to the bottom of the Davis-Bacon prevailing wages. Those are the federal prevailing wages.
Are you talking about on the bid?
On this, yeah, the bid packet.
Got it, thank you,
So,
sir. Yeah.
and that's on page 4, item 7. You'll note that the project's to be fully completed before June 3rd, 2022. That will make the bicycle days people very happy, and everyone else happy for that matter, but particularly bicycle days people. I noted with interest on page 18, talks about the plantings, specifically what perennial plants and more specifically what deciduous trees and shrubs are being planted. A variety there.
Any further comments?
I trust that that spelling correction will be made.
Yes, we can make that, and I'll get you a new sheet for the mayor sign first thing in the morning.
Any further comments on resolution number 32, 2021? Roll call.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Yay.
Mr. Rob.
Yay.
Mr. Roberts. Yay. Mr. Gates.
Yay.
Resolution number 32, 2021 passes. Clear.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for coming.
Mayor, the gentleman, of course, is welcome to stay for the balance of the meeting.
I'm gonna go get dinner.
Oh.
Thanks, guys.
What are you buying?
Now we'll move forward then to reports from standing and special committees. The Community and Economic Development Committee met this afternoon. Councilman McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We did meet briefly, myself, the mayor, Councilman Rob, Christina Drain with the Shelby Historical Preservation Commission, Kathy Wood with the Marvin Milroy Library, Jessica Gervin, the Director of Economic Development, joined us as well. So a few items here. Christina Drain would like our support to bring Randy Sampson on board as a member of the Shelby Historical Preservation Commission. We'll be looking at it here shortly. And then a couple of events to be held at the Amphitheater of Blackheart Commons in the next couple of weeks. First, this Saturday is a movie at dusk at the Amphitheater at Blackheart Commons. And then the library will be holding a special event on the 16th at 6, a night with Elvis, also at the Amphitheater. And then the Facade Improvement Program has selected the following 3 locations to get 50% matching dollars for the Facade Improvement Program. That would be the Vault, Shravely Accounting, and Weber's Bar. And all 3 locations are on the historical buildings in the downtown area. The mural at the library is being painted at this time at the library on the west side of the building. And then finally, just a few items from the Shelby Historical Preservation Commission's report. Some of the recent activity on the commission includes historic landmark window signs are being distributed, all windows and other structures on the National Register of Historic Places. They are also conducting survey of residences above the historic district storefronts. They are also requesting Ohio History Connections building doctor to come to Shelby They will provide a seminar on a topic such as deteriorating masonry or windows, and then the second day, the tour of 10 buildings to look at issues and offer suggestions for repairs. In addition, a blog is being created on the City of Shelby site that will offer information about historic preservation, showcasing work that is being done on historic properties. In addition, local design guideline work continues, including creating a book and a local overlay of historic landmark properties beyond the Shelby Center Historic District. And then also they're assisting 6 property owners in filing certificates of appropriateness. That's all I have for today, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. McLaughlin. Are there any comments or questions for Mr. McLaughlin in regard to his report? If not, we'll move forward then. The Public Works and General Operations Committee did not meet. We move them to Safety Committee. Councilman Roberts.
Thank you, sir. Safety Committee met on June 2nd. Very brief meeting. Health News reported that 3 nuisances were going to the law director and 2 were going to court. And in police news, we had a candidate for police, for the one police officer an offer had been made for that position. And jail inspection that was supposed to be done this month has been postponed with no new date. So, that's it.
Well, thank you. Are there any comments or questions for Mr. Roberts in regard to his report? Seeing none, we'll move forward then to reports from city officials. The mayor's report will be brief here this evening. Since our last meeting, of course, been occupied with the typical mayoral duties. COVID-19 report, which came out today from our city health department. We are reporting 0 new cases from June 5th through June 7th. We are monitoring 1 active case. That active case is hospitalized. We're going to check on Wednesday. Hopefully that person will be released from hospital at that point, but we will be checking on that individual. It should be noted that we've had a total of 10 new cases documented from our city jurisdiction over the last 38 days. So that's a very good number. We've had several times we've had 0 cases documented within our jurisdiction. So very, very thankful for those numbers, which I think are kind of typical across the state, but so very, very blessed to have those low numbers. This week, we will begin the interview process for a full-time firefighter paramedic who will fill the position of retired firefighter Mr. Paulo. We are looking for a full-time taxi driver for our city services. Those services are Tuesday through Friday, 8 to 4. For more details on that, I would encourage everyone to call City Hall, 419-347-5131. I do want to thank Mr. Larry Grant for coming out of retirement temporarily and filling in on a very short notice, so we will be able to continue taxi service while we look for a new full-time, and we'd also like to find a backup driver as well for the taxi. So please call City Hall for more details. Grass is growing. I think we all know that. 2 things about mowing. Please attend to your lawns. We do have an ordinance pertaining to noxious weeds and tall grass, and we have been taking action, but we'd rather not. So we trust everyone to keep an eye on their lawns, keep the grass mowed. And secondly, please do not throw your mowed grass from the lawnmower onto the street. We do have an ordinance that prohibits that practice. This causes, of course, headaches in our stormwater collection system, catch basins in particular. We've probably all seen it after a heavy rain where there has been grass in the gutters or in the streets, and it causes some real problems there, backups. So please keep your grass on your property and rake whatever it needs to do to keep it off the streets. And then, of course, you see here I have a confirmation for your consideration to the Historic Preservation Commission. Are there any comments or questions for me in regard to my report? Mr. Gates.
Mayor, I believe the county commissioners, the joint commissioners, held a viewing regarding the Black Fork ditch petition since our last council meeting. Wondered if either if you had gone there or Mr. McLaughlin, council's representative, liaison. So
I took the visual tour from the comfort of my desk, and Chair, they had, it was about a little over 2 hours of drone footage, which in some ways, some have made the comment, you probably get a better view from up there than even walking. You were just getting little, looks at the river here and there. So I was very impressed with the quality of that footage. It's very, very clear. It's Matt Wallace, I think, who's the one who was the pilot, and he did an excellent job. So yeah, I cannot remember the dates of the next few meetings on this public meetings, but I believe that's up on the Soil and Water. Is that on their website, Joe?
Not sure.
If we can try to find if that's available, go sit down and view it. It's very, very informative. And there are some blockages again, and just typical for that river. Thanks for asking.
thank you.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion to confirm the appointment of Mr. Randy Sampson to the Shelby Historic Preservation Commission.
Mayor, I'll move to confirm Mr. Sampson.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Gates and a second by Mr. McLaughlin to confirm the appointment of Randy Sampson to the Shelby Historic Preservation Commission. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. McLaughlin. Mr. Rob.
Yay.
Mr. Roberts.
Yay.
Mr. Gates.
Yay.
The motion to confirm passes. Thank you. We now move forward then to Mr. Brian Crum, Director of Finance.
Thank you, sir. Pretty much routine business in my department. The income tax collection came in very well the end of the month. I should have brought numbers to you guys, but it slipped my mind, so I'll probably email you guys here in the next day or so, just so you don't have to wait a whole other 2 weeks for all that fun information. I know everybody knows their edge of their seats about tax collection. We're kind of starting some of our summer projects. I did neglect to get a hold of that insurance consultant, so I will do that here this week as well. I've done a little more research with some of the ARP funds. Kind of what I've learned is that a lot of it's going to be adjusted. I believe they're going to issue another sort of amended set of guidance in the middle of July. They are taking, you can reach out and there's some comments for things that you would like to change. I know that I personally will be commenting to kind of talk about the utilities collection and how that was hurt by COVID, and probably a few other things. I believe I sent an email out with a link to those, to make those comments. If anybody would like another copy, see me anytime. So that is going to be a long process. I'm sure just getting the guidance to determine what we can and we can't spend our funds on. So I'm glad they gave us several years to actually spend the funds. Another thing, you guys are probably starting to wonder about the resolutions we passed for the park and health levies. I sent them over to the county auditor. They've had some staffing changes over there that kind of slowed down that processing, but I will follow up with them and get those back so that we can send those resolutions on to the Board of Elections with plenty of time to spare. So those are my projects for the next few days here. That's pretty much all I have for right now, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Crum. Are there any comments or questions from Mr. Crum? Mr. Gates?
The question when we might expect the 2022 tax budget.
Yeah, so we'll let you do on that too. I will work on that this week as well.
I think we may be required to adopt that by mid-July.
Okay, thank you, sir. I appreciate your reminder.
Any other comments or questions? I thank Mr. Crum. We'll move forward then to Mr. Eister, Paul Director.
Thank you. Just kind of let you guys know, bring up to speed, I was out, I apologize, last meeting I had an illness, which eventual death in my family, so that took me out of the office a little bit backed up. I have one assistant in my office who will be out of my office for 10 to 14 days, depending on how that scenario goes, and I have my assistant Maria, who's got some health issues. She's going to be out of the office between 2 and 4 weeks with some pretty serious health stuff going on with her. So I appreciate and thank you in advance for your understanding. I know certain members have been waiting on a couple of legal opinions from me. I don't have those tonight. I will get to those. I apologize. It's been a little crazy at 10 minutes ago afternoon. So thank you for your understanding in that regard.
Thank you. Any comments or questions for Mr. Eister? Thank you, Mr. Eister. Mr. Geis, Project Coordinator.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few updates on our projects. As you know, the East Main Sewer project got started last week. We did run into this little bit of a problem right from the start with getting the old line out and the new manhole and so forth set, but they're moving along now. Hopefully that'll get wrapped up in the next couple of weeks so we can get everyone's road back open. Just a few paving will be in late July, early August. Our paving project, the City Hall roof is scheduled in July. And on the exterior property maintenance, had a lot of success. Fortunately, I've been sending out letters of people actually correcting them, but we are getting a rash of lawn parking going on right now. So I hate to send a certified letter and then we gotta wait and this and that and so forth. So, there is a provision in the ordinance for notifying them in person or so forth, so we may try that to try to speed things up, because it's expensive and it just takes too long to do the other route, so that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Geis. Are there any comments or questions for Mr. Geis in regard to his report? If not, we'll move forward then to new business. We have no new business listed. Is there any new business from council this evening? Hearing none, we move forward then to unfinished business. Future use of Main Street Fire Station. There has been no movement on that issue. Charter Centennial Timeline. Mr. Gates, anything happen?
Sure, Mayor, on June 14th, 1921, the Charter Commission filed its proposed charter with the City Council. It had only been 3 weeks earlier that there had been an election regarding a Charter Commission. And so one wonders, how did these 15 Charter Commissioners come up with a charter in but 3 weeks? Well, one can't plagiarize that which is a public record. And what they did was they went 20 miles east to the city of Ashland, got a copy of their charter, and more or less just wherever it said Ashland, they crossed it out and wrote in Shelby. So over the years, I've heard people talk about the wisdom and foresight of our city fathers who wrote our city charter, and I'm thinking, when people say that, they bless their hearts, they don't know the history. But again, it was in the public domain, and it was fair game. And goodness knows, over the years, I've gotten copies of legislation from other communities and crossed out whatever town and wrote Shelby. So I don't hold that against them. I just want to point out what they did. Well, a week, actually 6 days later, on June 20th, 1921, Council passed an ordinance to submit the charter to the voters.
Well, thank you for those pieces of history. I think the older I get, the more I appreciate history like that. And it's truly, I guess I say it's informative, entertaining, and inspirational, all rolled into one. Thank you.
Welcome.
McBride Park Baseball Field. Mr. Rob.
Mr. Eister helped us out a little bit with that tonight. His opinion isn't prepared, so it just puts us off until next meeting or the meeting after.
Okay, very good. Thank you. The Health Department state budget. I believe I just read that when this came out of I think the Finance Committee, there wasn't a whole lot of verbiage change in the problematic language that we pointed out. Council, under the direction of Mr. Gates, has sent a letter. I've sent a letter to both Senator Romanchuk and Representative John. They've had other letters, of course, many letters from other departments. I think the only thing that was negative, that they removed a provision that would fund the study of a feasibility of merger and so forth. But as this moves forward, as I understand from talking to Mr. Romanchuk before, there's still this reconciliation process between the House version and the Senate version. And so I am still hopeful that in these days of those conferences that there will be a remedy to that portion in the state budget. If I see or hear anything, I will definitely email everyone. But I know that both of the representation that we have stated privately and publicly that they feel that any type of move of that nature to reconfigure health departments across the state should be in a standalone type of piece of legislation rather than kind of tucked into the budget. And I believe that too. And they both have stated that. So we'll just keep moving forward. And if I hear anything, I'll let you know. If we can have a call to action, I'll let you know as well. Mr. Gates.
Fair. Mrs. Conrad had forwarded to us a copy of the testimony that was given by the president of the Association of Health Commissioners. And what his suggestion was to, and this was the Senate committee, that health departments that have been accredited or are in the process of being accredited would be exempted from this provision. Which covers us, and I don't know where the other 18 or so small health departments are in their accreditation process, but if a health department is accredited, what more can the state expect from us? Particularly when the state itself 2 years ago, made this a requirement for health departments to be accredited. Hopefully. Some wisdom will prevail. That seems to be a perfectly fine suggestion.
I agree. Thank you for pointing that out. So hopefully we'll have some good news to report at the next meeting. Any other unfinished business? If not, let's dive into legislation.
Ordinance number 14, 2021, authorizing the mayor as director of finance, authorizing the director of finance to levy assessments for the improvement of a portion of West Main Street with a sanitary sewer and its appurtenances.
Move for second reading.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Gates and a second by Mr. Robb for the second reading of ordinance number 14, 2021. Discussion. Mr. Robb.
I'm going to move that this piece of legislation be postponed to the second meeting in July to give the Finance and Utilities Committees opportunity to take a look at the possibility of additional funding. I believe we owe these people every opportunity that we can afford them to reduce the amount of these assessments. I don't recall any other city project that had this amount applied to the individual property owners in the form of assessments. So I would ask that those two committees at least examine the possibility of additional funding for these and reduction of the assessments.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Mr. Robb and a second by Mr. McLaughlin to postpone this ordinance until the second meeting in July for the reasons so stated. Discussion. Mr. Gates.
Well, Mayor, I don't know where to begin on this. This is like the 11th hour. The gentlemen have plenty of opportunities to bring forth legislation during this process, during this long process, to put more money into this project. And it did not happen. I will tell you, going back 30 plus years, dealing with assessments, both as an administrator and a legislator, there has never been a project in which the city has put more money than this project. The best example is the cost of the lift station. There's nothing that required the city to pay for the lift station. All the city's required to pay in the charter is 2% plus the cost of intersections. But there's no intersections in this particular project. So, again, we've put a considerable amount of money into this. To go back and to somehow open up the city's wallet and to put more money into this project is not responsible. There's no reason to postpone this. We need to move ahead. There is a deadline by which we have to get the assessments to the county auditor. After we give the property owners, I believe it's 30 days in which they can come and pay. So, to send this not to just one committee, but to two committees, is simply just a way to, I think, to bog this down and to end up with the city holding the bag. That's not acceptable to this member.
Further discussion on the postponement? All right, we'll take a vote on the motion to postpone until the second meeting in July. Roll call, please.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Yay.
Mr. Rob.
Yay.
Mr. Roberts.
Yay.
Mr. Gates.
Nay.
Motion to postpone passes.
Ordinance number 15, 2021, amending Title IV subdivision regulations of the codified ordinances of the city of Shelby.
Move for first reading.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Roberts and a second by Mr. Gates for the first reading of ordinance number 15, 2021. Discussion. Mr. Geis.
This would just amend the two appendices and the subdivision regulations as were submitted to city council by the planning commission.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Yay.
Mr. Rob.
Yay.
Mr. Roberts.
Yay.
Mr. Gates.
Yay.
Ordinance number 15, 2021 passes its first reading.
Ordinance number 16, 2021, amending chapter 1044 sewer charges, section 1044.02, conditions of service, rate schedule, F, production cost adjuster of the codified ordinances of the city of Shelby, Ohio.
Move for first reading.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Roberts and a second by Mr. McLaughlin for the first reading of ordinance number 16, 2021. Discussion? Mr. Gates.
Mayor, what is new with this?
Mr. Henson.
Mayor.
Absolutely. The change or the amendment to this ordinance would be the cost of diesel fuel in the manufacturing process and the addition of the ultraviolet light system. We have to replace the bulbs annually. So that would be the two additions to this piece of legislation, which is within the PCA.
Thank you. Any further further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Yay.
Mr. Rob.
Yay.
Mr. Roberts.
Yay.
Mr. Gates.
Yay.
Ordinance number 16, 2021 passes its first reading.
Resolution number 31, 2021, authorizing the mayor as Director of Public Service to accept an alley and street paving proposal from Mid-State Blacktop Inc.
Point of order, Mayor,
I
that's.
think we're at 30, it should go to 30.
Did I miss?
Yeah, we're at 30, right? Yes, resolution number 30.
I think it's just on the agenda wrong.
It's
It
missing
is
on the
missing.
agenda.
And from my packet. Is it in your packets? Thank you. Resolution number 30, 2021, authorizing the mayor as Director of Public Service to acquire rights of easement for electric lines in the Wolf Run subdivision. Yeah. I'll fix that. There it is. My apologies, folks.
Is there a motion for the passage of resolution number 30?
Orders of the day, Mayor.
Look forward to resolution number 31, then Mr. Trump.
Resolution number 31, 2021, authorizing the mayor as Director of Public Service to accept an alley and street paving proposal from Mid-State Blacktop Inc.
Move the resolution be taken up and passed.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Gates and a second by Mr. Roberts for the passage of resolution number 31, 2021. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Yay.
Mr. Rob.
Yay.
Mr. Roberts.
Yay.
Mr. Gates.
Yay.
Resolution number 31, 2021 passes. Now go to miscellaneous business. Any miscellaneous business to be brought before council this evening? Mr. Gates.
Mayor, I move the council go into executive session for the following purpose: to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official, or the investigation of charges or complaints against a public employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual, unless the public employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual requests a public hearing.
We have a motion by Mr. Gates and a second by Mr. Robb to go into executive session for the purposes so read. Discussion? Mr. Gates.
Mayor, might council have a brief understanding of what this is about?
It would come under the title of compensation of a public employee of that section. Any further discussion? Mr. Gates.
Mayor, so that I might request who accompanies council into executive session, in what department is this public employee working?
Line department.
Thank you.
Mr. Gates.
Mayor, if this motion passes, I would ask that you and the Deputy Director of Public Service accompany council into executive session.
But we also have the finance director.
Perhaps subsequently.
Fine. All right. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Yay.
Mr. Rob.
Yay.
Mr. Roberts.
Yay.
Mr. Gates.
Yay.
Motion passes. We go to executive session at 7:38.
I haven't read it, I got it. I was in trials and everything. I'll get it.
Sometimes. You're about to need it, just don't fall asleep in church. Somebody look at
See you on Sunday?
Come on.
One day.
All right,
I keep saying the same thing.
I know, come on.
Joe, is there anything else?
No,
Peace out, my brother.
later.
Oh, God. Mm. Ooh. Oh.
just have a 74-year-old sleeping in bed. How does that even?
I don't, what's the logic in that? That just, yeah, that's insane. Yeah, well, I've been thinking about what could their motive possibly be as well, and it just doesn't make sense. People are insane.
Did your church go back to normal?
Council's meeting tomorrow, to decide. They're, you know, like most of the congregation members went back to normal, you know, as soon as June 2nd got here. I think probably they are.
We are back to normal.
Yeah, it's like, you know, if you want to wear a mask, great, feel free, you know, but other than that, we're gonna take down because we sectioned off the pews and,
Yeah, we did that too.
oh my gosh.
That's all gone now.
You can't even, like, I'd go in, I couldn't even find a seat, you know, like, it's ridiculous, I'm standing in the aisleway when half of the pews are empty.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think that'll be the end of that. I'm pretty happy about it. It's funny because, you know, like, I don't think I even have a mask on me today. And, you were 2 weeks ago, you know, you wouldn't go in anywhere without a mask and so I'm glad. It was a long 13, 14 months. So, can't argue with that. Trust you had a good trip.
Wonderful.
Glad to hear that. Did you catch anything?
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Yeah. Browns and Brookies.
Nice. Was that
Shut them all back in.
Did you? Man, I bet.
We had plenty to eat.
Oh, I bet you did. Cocoa audience. Gosh, they're pushing being in executive session longer than we were in our regular meeting.
There you go.
Pretty much, yeah.
It sounds glamorous.
He does. Oh, he is. He is.
Welcome back, everybody.
Good to be back.
Feel like one.
Okay.
We're back on?
We're back on.
All right, council comes out of executive session at 7:59. Is there any other miscellaneous business? Mr. Gates.
Mayor, I move council adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Gates and a second by Mr. Roberts for adjournment. Roll call, please.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Yay.
Mr. Rob.
Yay.
Mr. Roberts.
Yay.
Mr. Gates.
Yeah.
Council adjourns at 7:59.